you were an employer, how do you think is the most effective way to do this, since you've been
I
kind of
would
in this space a long time?
definitely, yeah, I would definitely ask them about SQL, and it's okay. Pick whatever flavor of SQL you want, and I'd make up some hypothetical table, and I'd just make sure they understand concepts like joins. Maybe you can write a window function, just basic queries.
This episode of Ken's Nearest Neighbors is powered by Z by HP, HP's high compute, workstation grade line of products and solutions. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing Nick Singh. Nick is a career coach and the best-selling author of Ace the Data Science Interview. Previously, he held a variety of software and data roles at Facebook, Google, and VC-backed startups. He aspires to be the Drake of data science, whatever that means. Today, we learn about Nick's fascinating career journey through tech, the keys to landing the data science job, and his unique experience writing his book. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I enjoyed our chat. Nick, thank you so much for coming on the Ken's Nearest Neighbors podcast today. Obviously, we met another incredible guest sourced from Harpreet's Data Science Happy Hour. You're a book author. You're a former, you have a great, incredible past that I won't lead too much into yet. But again, I really appreciate you coming on the show and having a talk about data science jobs and your experience and whatever that might be.
Yeah, man, I've been loving your content. I've been watching your YouTube for a while, so I'm really happy to be here, and shout out Harpreet for helping get this together too. So yeah.
Also, first, I have to comment on how much better your background is than mine. I'm like slumming it with my bed, and like I barely have my papaya in frame.
Yeah, man.
But
No, I'm gearing up for that YouTube life. I'm not on YouTube right now, but maybe sooner than later I will. So I just got to get the background check for that too.
Awesome. Well, if by the time this comes out, you have a channel, I'll make sure to link it in the description below.
Love it.
So in order to get people a bit more acquainted with you, I think a really unique way to do that is to talk about how you first got interested in data. So was that a single pivotal moment, or was that a slow progression over time?
Definitely a slow progression. And, I've always been interested in data, and my career is a little bit weird because I've done data in a whole bunch of different ways that maybe isn't as traditional as holding the role of data scientist for long periods of time. So in school, in school, I studied systems engineering, which is kind of like industrial engineering or operations research. So it was this good mix of math and coding and modeling and a little bit of business. And what kind of always guided me throughout my career has been making better decisions through data, right? So I think of myself less as a data scientist, data engineer, software engineer. Pretty much the thing that's been guiding me is helping orgs, teams, people, products basically make better decisions through data. So that's kind of what got me into systems engineering. I minored in computer science. I interned for a defense contractor that did work for the Naval Intelligence Research Lab. So for the intelligence community. Then I worked at Microsoft, and I interned at Google's Nest Labs as a data engineer, where I got to see a different side of data at scale, looking at all these logs that Nest thermostats and Nest cameras are spewing across, the whole system. And then I started my career as a software engineer at Facebook on the growth team. So technically my title is software engineer, but even that tiny team, the growth team, was all about using data to build better products and to experiment our way, to A/B test our way to higher engagement, higher retention. So I joined the new person experience team, which was basically all about figuring out how can we build better products that increase early retention of users so that they'd sign up on Facebook.com or the app and make sure that they didn't quit the app within 2 weeks of joining. So that was a lot of SQL queries, a lot of A/B tests, and a lot of different like data exploration to figure out like, hey, where should our product roadmap go? Where are the most opportunities to increase retention and engagement? After that, I switched things up, man. I'm a big fan of Drake. He says, YOLO, you only live once. I knew, man, hey, I've been so interested in the business side of things. Let me go give that a spin. Because, I did the whole Facebook software engineer thing. If I needed to go back to Silicon Valley and code, I could do that. So I took a big risk and I joined this alternative data company called Safegraph that does mobile location analytics. They had this big panel of mobile phones from which they collect GPS location data, anonymize it, and then put out aggregated insights, such as, hey, here's how many people are shopping at Walmart and Target. It never was localized down to a person, but at the aggregate high level view, it helped people understand what's happening with retail, what's happening with commercial activity. So there, I was actually the head of marketing, which is pretty random, right? Because it's like, bro, I'm like technical as hell. How am I doing marketing? Well, it was just a small company. The CEO took a chance on me. And the whole job was trying to explain why this data set was good to other data analysts, machine learning teams, and data scientists who work at hedge funds or retail analytics companies. So it was almost like I'm trying to position this product and sell to people who I used to be on the other side using data to build better products, right? So I did that for about 2 years. And, the COVID hit, people lost their jobs, offers got rescinded. And I've been writing on LinkedIn for a long time. And I was like, all right, maybe this is my time to be a career coach. And that's where I've done my most recent thing, which is write a book on data science interviews. So it's kind of a weird career in and around data in different ways through engineering, data science, software on the growth team, or even running marketing and now the book. But yeah, I just love data and helping people. So that's kind of my career.
Awesome. And so, I mean, it seems like you have really unique experience from these huge tech behemoths to kind of more startup type businesses. I'm interested what that transition was like for you. I mean, kind of jumping into the meat of it here, like first, how did you get signed on with like in that marketing role? How did you meet these people? What was that progress
Yeah.
like? And just tell me a little bit more about the experience between like a huge tech company and something that's a bit smaller that's growing quickly.
Absolutely. So actually, it's funny enough. I sent the CEO of SafeGraph a cold email, and within 24 hours, he's like, "Okay, cool. Let's interview this kid." And then a few weeks later, I had the job offer. And that's actually why I tell so many people about the power of writing good cold emails. It's literally chapter 3 in the book, Ace the Data Science Interview. It's all about how do you send effective cold emails, because I actually emailed my way to interviews at Airbnb and Snapchat. So it works at big companies and small companies. So I just sent the guy a cold email saying, hey, like, here's my background. Things at Facebook are all right, but I'm looking for a change. And he kind of liked my energy. He liked my portfolio projects. He liked my past. And I had a convincing story because besides just the work I did day to day, I had all these other side projects and hustles and my DJ business that I did in high school that showed like, hey, you know what? Even though I don't have traditional marketing experience in different ways, I know how to use data and I know how to maybe advertise and market. And anyways, this is a very technical product. We were selling data. There's no UI. We were literally selling a CSV. Once a month, we would drop a CSV to a machine learning team. So, it kind of worked out that they needed someone technical like me to really explain the value of these alternative data sets to other teams. So that's kind of the story of how I landed at SafeGraph through a cold email happenstance, and it worked out.
That's incredible. And, something that we talked about a little bit offline is your experience with startups or sort of that entrepreneurial nature. And I think that, at least from my perspective, like data science is a very entrepreneurial, like vertical within business, right? Like you're scoping problems, like what is entrepreneurship? It's you're defining problems and you're building solutions to them. Like in theory, a lot of that is what we do with data science. Can you talk to me? I know you had, I think it was like a startup or a really intense project you worked on around rap music, and I'd love
Yeah, man.
to hear the story of that and how that integrated into the broader picture of your career.
Life is wild. So this random thing I did in my sophomore year of college, it was a startup called rapstock.io. It's dead, RIP. But back in the day, it was kicking and it was alive. What it was I loved people would get really obsessed with fantasy football where they're draft teams. And I know you're the whole sports analytics guy. You know all about the fantasy life
I
and how
yes.
intense people get. Yes.
Although I'm absolutely getting dominated this year in my fantasy football league. So
Right. And guess what, Ken? I hate to break it to you. I don't really like sports. You know what I
yeah,
like? I like
it's not for
music.
everyone.
I like thinking about, yo, is Drake overrated? Or is there more mileage in his career? Or is Lil Nas X a one-hit phenomenon? Or is he here to stay? And in hip hop, everyone's always yelling, like, oh, this guy's just a one-hit wonder, or oh, this guy's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, right? These are debates that are happening. So I wanted to make people put their money where their mouth was. Basically, I kind of built this fantasy football, but for hip hop music, where you kind of draft artists to your fantasy label. So this is a little bit ahead of its time because now they do this stuff with like cryptocurrencies and betting markets and all this stuff. But this was just me in my college dorm room trying to figure things out. and try to quantify your ability to like say who was doing good in music. So what I'd use was Spotify data to kind of price each of these artists in real time so that people could go long or short on different artists and kind of get credit and show off like, yo, I actually have a good portfolio because look at how well my artists are doing. I actually know who's an up and comer and who's just, fake in the industry. So I did that. I grew it to 2,000 monthly active users, and doing this project. And, it's funny, I even did this project because I used to DJ in high school, right? So I've always been about like music and taste making. And this was a project around quantifying basically musical taste. That was kind of what I wanted. I wanted to prove to my friends that I knew how to pick them better than they did. You know what I mean? And I mean, that's kind of the ego that drives people maybe in sports too. Like, hey, I know how to draft better than you do because I actually understand the game of football or basketball better than you do. So I had that same kind of ego. I wanted to build a platform. But you know what I fell in love with? I love the music part. I love building. But what I really fell in love with is this growth engineering, this idea of like, wow, I have users coming. And with Google Analytics, I see their retention data and I can split test things. And I can send an email and they'll come back to me and I can build email campaigns. And I got really interested in not just marketing, but this intersection of like, how can we build products better that engage users and do it in a data-driven way? And I think these days, the VCs coined the term product-led growth, which is, hey, changing your product to lead growth and not thinking of marketing or design as a separate function from like the actual product. They're all very tightly integrated. So that's what got me interested that in that little field my sophomore year of college. And that's kind of what led me to Facebook's growth team way later, where, hey, on Facebook scale, I'm running A/B tests with millions of users and trying to figure out like what should the product do next. So that's kind of the story of how my little side project turned into my full-time job. And I mean, again, in the book, chapter 3 is, I think 2 or 3 is all about this, of building kick-ass portfolio projects, because it's what I tell all the people in data as well. Like Kaggle is free. All these data sets are out there for you to explore and build stuff. And if you can cold email that and sound intelligent about the work you've done and show how it's relevant to the future company, like I made Rapstock relevant to all the growth teams I interviewed with, you're in a much better position on the job hunt than other folks who just have the same boring projects that everyone else has done.
I mean, to me, that's such an incredible case study in and of itself, is your experience there. Something I think a lot of people struggle with is motivation, or just like, what project should I do? And being introspective, understanding what you like and what challenges you face, or, even if it's just, hey, I want to one up my friends. I mean, another guy I interviewed from Facebook a couple of weeks ago, he started tracking all of his ping pong games, right? And they wanted to see who would perform the best, and they created an ELO rating system and whatever it is. Or one of my other friends, or maybe I read an article online, but they created analytics for all the Settlers of Catan games they were playing, right?
Yep.
And like these things, they seem like kind of dinky, and it's like, oh, this is just for us to get us to understand our own stuff better, or like compete against your friends or have a benchmark. But they go a tremendously long way in the job market. And it's not like, you don't need super sophisticated projects. You have to show technical skills, right?
Right.
But if it's something that is like, oh, this person clearly did this in their free time because they enjoy it, they get immense joy out of like working with data, that really comes across. You like, if you're a hiring man, would you like someone who is excited about doing data work every day and like might need a little work? Or do you want someone who's just like hates being there, but is like a really good coder?
Exactly, man. People hire for like potential, and there's nothing more that shows your interest, passion, potential than these portfolio projects. And another big thing is most people quit when they're working on their projects because they get bored of it in a week or two. But I didn't quit because I love hip hop music and I had users and I was like, wow, this is so exciting. And my friends are using it. Same way, that guy making ping pong, he's not quitting because his friends play ping pong. Versus if he did something more academic, maybe it wouldn't have worked as well. So I think that's another super thing that I talk about in the book, like a hack, which is go use your passion to drive these projects, even if your passion is something that's fun, like ping pong or hip hop music that might not be very serious or businessy. it still will help you make sure you actually put these projects to completion, right? Because if I did something way more boring and relevant, would I have had any users? Probably not. I wouldn't have even known about growth engineering or my passion for marketing. And that led to a whole bunch of other things happen in my career. But it all started with, wow, I love music. Let's go make something. So huge fan of that as well. And glad to see that you've seen it work in other people's career as well. And it's definitely worked in mine.
Yeah. Well, something that I think is, I wouldn't say unique about your situation, but something that's really highlighted there that I don't think I've talked about enough is like creating positive feedback loops. So you were able to, like, through your interest and your passion, create like a spark to get something going, right? And then you had users, or you had like some system that kept you wanting to like go back to it or hold you accountable. Like if you have people using your platform, you're like, oh, shit, like I have
Yeah.
to keep doing it, right? And the more you do it, the like more viewers you get or users you get or whatever it is. I think, for example, I saw that with YouTube, right? Is that,
Yeah.
hey, if I do these specific things, these are specific outcomes that I can get from this. And the more I do these things, it keeps building and building and building on itself.
It's
And I think,
addictive, man.
yeah, well, but I mean, there's so many applications of that within the data science career or within the job market itself, is that if you get better at, for example, like deep learning, right? That enables you to do more deep learning projects, that
Right.
enables you to find cooler solutions and outcomes, that again just makes you want to do more and more because your capabilities are expanding, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I just wanted to call that out because I think that that's um, a lot of people cut the feedback loop too short. They either
Yeah.
don't share, and like, I think being social with projects is one of the best ways to continue a feedback loop to get buy-in. But
100%.
it definitely is not. It's not the only way, right?
That little feeling for me was when I had coded up the project. It was a school semester, and I saw someone in a lecture hall 2 rows in front of me use my website, but I didn't know that person. They didn't know me. So I don't know. I mean, it was a friend of a friend. It's not like a total stranger, but it was somehow maybe on Facebook. But I was just like, that's my website, and he's placing trades on my website. Shit, like this is real now, and I don't know that guy's name. I've seen him around. I don't know him. Once that clicks, it's like it gets really exciting and you start growing way faster. And I know a lot of people are like that about data science. So, it gets addictive once you start getting good and it doesn't get so hard and daunting. So I know for people who find these things daunting, you start at an easier place, you lower that activation energy, make it something you like and it's easy to do. It's way better in the long run.
I mean, that is so meaningful right there. Switching gears just a little bit, I've been interested in this and wanting to ask questions related to this. So let's take your experience interviewing at Google, interviewing at Facebook for data engineering roles and software engineering roles. One, what was that like? And then how are software engineering interviews different from a more pure data science interview?
Totally. Yeah, man. There's been so much out there on software engineering interviews, so I don't have any alpha. I don't have too much more to say besides grind lead code and read books like Cracking the Coding Interview or Elements of Programming Interviews. I mean, the whole reason I wrote this book, Ace the Data Science Interview, is because I was such a fan of Gail's book, Cracking the Coding Interview, and how it helped me in my in my software engineering career. And I was like, why does this book not exist for data science and data science careers? So honestly, the path for interviewing for these data and software engineering roles is similar in the sense that, yeah, you're going to be asked these technical questions that require some SQL for the data engineering ones. And a few of my software engineering roles also ask me some SQL. And then, yeah, you got to do grind lead code and answer questions, and I would code in Python. So it's not that different. I mean, of course, in data science, they're going to ask you more conceptual stuff too. And some of the audience might be thinking about like, oh, Nick, wait, software engineering, data engineering, why are you writing a book on data science? Well, I have my co-author as well, who's the ex-Facebook data scientist turned quant on Wall Street to help me out with some of these things, because I've been around the data science block, but not nearly as much as he has for the interviewing side. But what we've seen from coaching candidates and working on the book and just talking to hiring managers, conceptual stuff matters a lot more. And then actually an emphasis on projects is a lot more there. Because in coding, you can get signal, hey, solve this, reverse this linked list. Okay, you get some signal there. In data science, you can ask people that, but that really doesn't map to the actual job, because like, yo, which data scientist is even using a linked list? I mean, truth be told, what software engineer is using a linked list in production? I mean, no one really.
Not many that I
But
know of.
even that's still somewhat more relevant than compared to a data scientist, where it's like, yo, ask me about pandas, ask me about Dipler, ask me about NumPy, ask me something there, ask me about modeling. Like, what are you doing? Ask me about breadth first and depth first search through a graph. So I think there's a more emphasis on conceptual stuff around stat, prob, ML, and there's more of an emphasis on projects, because, hey, at some level, you just got to ask people, what's your past experience been? And like, why did you make the decisions you did? And you can do that in software engineering interviews too, but it's definitely, I've seen that way more for data science, because the field's so broad. So it's hard to like, I can't ask you about SVMs. You may be a good data scientist, but not know too much about SVMs. And maybe that's okay. Like, maybe it's been a while since you've read about that technique or reviewed it. So who am I to say? So it's better I ask you about your logistic regression project that you have written on your resume, versus in software, it's sort of like, hey, even if it's been a while since you've worked with a load balancer, you should still know conceptually what it is, and they'll ask you about it.
This episode of Ken's Nearest Neighbors is brought to you by Z by HP. HP's high compute, workstation grade line of products and solutions. Z is specifically made for high performance data science solutions, and I personally use the ZBook Studio and the Z4 workstation. I really love that the Z line can come standard with Linux, and they also can be configured with the data science software stack. With the software stack, you can get right into the work of doing data science on day one without the overhead of having to completely reconfigure your new machine. Now back to our show. That's awesome. I think something that I've noticed is very different is, for the most part, software engineers, I think that there's more of a consistent structure. You know what you're going to expect. I've a long time ago, I took a couple job interview, like data science job interviews, just to see what it was like. I wasn't planning on changing or anything like that.
Yeah, sure.
Just wanted to like get familiar with what the market was like, and the breadth of the different types of interviews that I got were fascinating. Like one, I had to do like a PowerPoint presentation with like a past project that I did and explain it, and then a couple runs of like pandas related stuff. And like, honestly, that wasn't too bad. I thought that was like a reasonable process. I had some prep, but I didn't have to like do a whole nother data set. So I had like a take-home quiz that was like all statistics problems.
Right.
And then another one, they sent me like a data set and said, oh, like find something out of this. And I think that can be really overwhelming for a lot of people, is not knowing what you're going to get. And, hopefully we can start mapping those and saying, hey, like, these are like, if it's like, hey, these are 15 things you can expect, that's better than not knowing the number of finite different things.
Exactly. And that's what our book, I mean, that was our aim. That's one of the reasons we wrote the book, was because, hey, people have, we were like, why does this book not exist? And one of the biggest reasons we saw was like, well, how do you speak intelligently about like 11 different things? Because there's coding, SQL, product sense, case studies, prob, stat, ML, like that's a lot of stuff. There might be a visualization part, take home challenges. There's so much. And this is before we even talk about behavioral interview questions or anything like that. So it's definitely hard to map. We tried our best to do it, and we think we came really close. So it really does, we aligned it with what we've seen at some of these big companies and what we've seen people write about on Glassdoor. So it's hopefully aligned to the market, the book. But definitely as a candidate side, it can be overwhelming, because someone's going to ask you a probability brain teaser. Someone else is going to give you a take-home project with Tableau and SQL. And then a third person is going to ask you conceptual stuff in ML. And then a fourth person is going to ask you to reverse a linked list. And it's like, wow, how does one person do all that? Honestly, it's practice. And honestly, practice is one thing. And the other thing is, hey, maybe you don't have to get the perfect answer. Maybe being able to explain your thought process, even if you can't write the perfect SQL query, is okay. Or maybe you don't know all the different assumptions for linear regression, but at least you know some of them, so it's sort of like that.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope that most interviewers do not write people off for a single mistake. I mean, I've gone through some interviews where like one of the rounds, I was like, man, I bombed that. And, you get to the next round, you're like, how's that possible? What mistake did they make? And to be fair, they could have made a mistake, but like, it's not like this like very clear pipeline. It's not like people in this circumstance are like data, right? We have emotions that are, and like, hey, if I really like this person, I think they'd be incredible to work with.
Yeah.
major factor that,
Yep.
you know,
Exactly. So there is variability and there is a wide range of things, but I think we distilled it to basically the most common ones. So hopefully the book achieves that part.
interesting. So um, if you were interviewing a data science candidate, what do you think would be the most representative way to do that? Like, this is maybe outside of scope, but it's
Yeah.
like flipping the table. Like, if you were an employer, how do you think is the most effective way to do this, since you've been
I
kind of
would
in this space a long time?
definitely, yeah, I would definitely ask them about SQL, and it's okay. Pick whatever flavor of SQL you want, and I'd make up some hypothetical table, and I'd just make sure they understand concepts like joins. Maybe you can write a window function, just basic queries. Make sure that they can do them. I would do that because, and you don't even need an IDE for that. Just put in a notepad or just tell me conceptually how you do it. I would definitely include some SQL there. And then I would definitely grill them on past projects because I feel like it's easy and there's a lot of like resume inflation where someone writes like, oh, I did all this. And then you come ask them about it. And it's like, I was just one person in a 4-person team and I really didn't do that much. And I can't really speak to regression, and it's like, why did you list that? So I think in an era of a lot of resume and LinkedIn inflation and everyone just trying to stuff in random skills, I would definitely ask a lot more about projects. And then I think a take home for more junior candidates is good. I know that senior talent often refuses to do take homes because they have a lot of other job offers on the table. So I would administer take home projects like depending on the situation, the candidate, or if I'm on the fence with somebody. And I just make sure that they are able to summarize data, maybe tell a narrative. But of course, it depends on what kind of role it is, and then do some basic modeling. But yeah, really just make sure that they actually know how to work with their different tools and have some base level of communication, which a take home project can test easily. So that's kind of what I've seen as really indicative. Um, and often another good thing I think is that asking people about projects is a good way to start asking technical questions. So in a vacuum, it might be stupid or trivia to be like, hey, tell me about the math behind PCA. But if someone says they used PCA and did a lot of work with it, or they did a lot of stuff in regression, I would ask them more and more questions and use that to just see like, hey, is this someone who's just touched the surface of things or they actually know what they're doing? And it speaks to their that they take their craft seriously. Is like, hey, I didn't just import from scikit-learn. Like I actually know what I'm talking about. So that's kind of what I would structure in my interview process. Yeah.
That's a really interesting uh, like concept of like probing and seeing how far you can go until they run out of answers. Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of like I would do that when I would interview. We talk about random forest and like versus XGBoost, and I'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
like what is the difference between these algorithms? What's the difference between bagging and boosting? Like how does
Yeah.
that? And it's like, okay, they get to the one level down, and then you ask another more specific question, like, okay, like what does that mean, like related to residuals, whatever that might be,
Yeah.
right? And it's not to say like I'm testing to see if you're getting the answer right, but
Yep.
it's testing the depth of knowledge, which I think is a very effective interview technique.
Yep.
But on the flip side, as an interviewee, you're like, oh my goodness, I got that wrong. And it's like, no, they're just seeing how far they
Yeah.
can push you a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Like with good
exactly.
candidates, you wanna
Yep. Yep, exactly.
you
You
want to
want to
push a
push.
little
And
bit.
here's something else that's funny. If this is a little bit of a this is a little bit of like a controversial thing, but I've seen in my little like experience to be true that if a company doesn't ask me and push me hard, I think, oh, this company has a low technical bar. And I know definitely for these hyper elite, hyper competitive jobs, it always be worse to like be like, oh yeah, cool, you're cool, come on through, then you're like, do I really trust these team or do these people? So I mean, if you probe people until they can't go any further, one, you learn about their limits, and two, it leaves candidates feeling like, maybe I didn't get it perfectly, which is it's sucky, but I'm telling you, like, there's a real psychological thing like, oh, and they called me to the next round, okay, that's really cool, like, okay, I'm going to give this company more of a chance, you know what I mean? Like, even you wrote, I mean, even you said you were excited, like, oh yeah, I bombed something, and they're like, oh, did they make a mistake?
Yeah.
You kind of want your candidate feeling just a little bit like that. Now, of course, don't torture someone, I'm not saying that, these things have limits, but it's an interesting psychological thing I've heard from hiring managers and everything, that it's beneficial to push people to their limits.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, we have Just a lot of uh, a lot of interviews that I guess like don't really go to plan.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile something like that when you feel like it's going off the rails or something along those lines? I've definitely been there, and it's like I don't want to give up, but like,
Yeah. Yeah. So you just keep asking them other questions and you fill the time, and then you end the interview at the appropriate time, when for the time scheduled. I know it's tempting to be like, oh, let's call it early or whatever, but it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And honestly, the person who's on the other end, if they feel like the interviewer's not into it, might write you a bad Glassdoor review or tell their friend, hey, this company's not good or whatever. So you just want to give some people the respect they deserve. So I've just, if things don't work good, then I just keep it behavioral. And, it's like, okay, great. You don't know anything. I just try to get to know the person and just take an opportunity to talk to someone, honestly.
awesome.
And there's no, I mean, and it sucks, right? Because you feel like you're wasting your time, but avoids another embarrassing thing of like, oh my God, like I probed them twice and this ended in disaster. Should I ask some even more hard things? Probably not. Just keep it there. Yeah. It happens.
So, we're talking about qualifications. I lost my train of thought a little bit back there.
Yeah.
That wasn't my best question, but we're talking about qualifications, right? And like how you're qualifying the candidates. I think as you become more senior in these roles, like you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for a job that is
Yep.
really meaningful to you. And I think it's
Yep.
important to qualify the employer as well with
Yep.
questions and things along those lines. How do you do that effectively? And what are some, you'd mentioned like a red flag is like maybe they're not grilling me enough. This is a
Yeah.
cakewalk. That could mean that they're like the work is not going to be meaningful because they can't ask like intelligent questions about
Right.
how I would be a fit for it. What are some ways that me going in as a like maybe a senior data scientist, I can say, okay, I think this would be a good fit for me. They have certain criteria. Like, what should I ask? How should I approach that conversation?
Yeah. So I often find that the best opportunities at companies that are growing fast. Now, of course, it depends on if you're prioritizing work-life balance, but I'm a Silicon Valley mindset, and I'm interested in startups and working at these top tech companies. So usually growth, if a company is growing fast, that means there's a lot of opportunities. And I feel like work environment wise, it stops being zero sum. If there's more work to be done, people are less territorial, there's less politics, just do more work and people don't fight. I feel like a lot of the fighting happens when there's not enough work to go around, and then people are fighting for credit, and there's not, people are worried about layoffs and they're trying to compete with their coworkers, versus a startup is just like, do whatever you want. Like, we have too much work, so whoever is good, do more work, and you'll be promoted and recognized for it faster, because anyways, we're hiring so much. So I think for senior data scientists, where they can align themselves with a culture of high growth, it's always good. And actually, honestly, that's for basically any candidate. I would always tell people to optimize for growth rate and like try to assess that. So it's a little bit biased, right? Because I mean, I know I took the question in my own way of like, how do you look for companies that are growing fast? Because you asked like, how do you just make sure it's a good fit? I think that's too general, because, maybe someone's looking for a work-life balance. Maybe it's good that they didn't grill me, maybe it's good it was really chill and really casual. And they're like, oh, when can you start? Come on through. It's really fun. Maybe if that's what you're looking for, maybe it isn't a red flag. But for me, looking for like an intense role, generally that where I can learn a lot, what I find to be good is to talk to the people in the interviews and get a sense of what are they working on actually. So usually it's like, hey, tell me about like what challenge you're facing right now, usually in the ask me a question part. And then I also try to understand the leadership and their mindset well. So where I can, I try to say like, hey, you like me, can I talk to not you, but your boss or your boss's boss? And usually if you're a good candidate, you can like go up a level or two and have them try to close you and try to understand from their perspective, what does the work you're doing or the team you're going to be joining fit into the larger organization, or branch, or the whole company's objectives, and that can give you a good sense of like, yo, is this work going to be meaningful, or is this some random work that's going to get canned, and this is some random like R&D project that's probably not going anywhere. You can get a sense of that when you jump up a level or two. And usually you just have to ask for it. They're not going to get like a VP maybe talk to you if you're just joining as an entry level role, but if you ask for it, they will make it happen, especially if you're a good candidate. So just talking to folks has been a really good thing. And then just seeing like their like seeing the rate of employees joining on LinkedIn, and seeing like, if there's only 50 people, see when were they hired? Is this company hiring fast? Are they growing? Or have most people been there for a while? And then same way, see their ex-employees. Did people just stay for a year and dip? Have a lot of employees dip recently? Or is generally people are with the firm and they're hiring fast? That tells me the company's growing well. And it also tells me like, hey, probably my career will grow well too here.
That's awesome. I think using data sources and like collecting your own information is really valuable. I get asked by a lot of people about, hey, should I do a master's in data science, right? Like what program should I do? Yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, I don't know. I like haven't gone
Yeah.
through every single program out there to tell you if this one is like a high quality program. Like in
Right.
order for me to feel like I've given you, like I could tell you if you should take it or not, I'd have to take it myself to see like, oh,
Yeah.
what's the quality. But
Right.
the point is that I always tell them, find a graduate of the program and like shoot them an email or like shoot them a
Right.
LinkedIn message and be like, did you find this as a valuable experience? Right. And you can do the same thing with a job. You can say, hey, this person used to work at this company. They're probably going to give you a realistic appraisal of their experience there if they were a data
Right.
scientist. And, if they left and they still say really good things about it, probably
Yeah.
a good sign, right?
And see the tenure. That's the other thing. Like, hey, have people been around for a little while? Is it a more mature company, or are they just churning through talent? And then often people write about their own promotion, or they'll hold multiple roles and see like, oh, this company, this person just had the same title for 4 years, or they just stayed for a year and left. But recently I was looking at a company where it's like, oh, look, multiple of these people have been promoted once every year and a half, and they've been with the company for 2, 3, 4 years. I saw another company the other day. I was helping someone with their job hunt where someone interned at the company, worked somewhere else for 9 months, and then came full-time back to that company for 4 years, and then left to join a very well-known Fortune 500 company. I was like, okay, great. Like clearly this company is doing good. Sure, they're more regional, smaller company, but clearly they're able to retain talent for multiple years, send that talent to other bigger companies later. And clearly this guy interned there, did some other job, and then came back and like had a really solid career. So clearly they're able to retain talent. And like this guy didn't just come back randomly after his internship for some random reason. So it's just like little signals, right? So it's a mix of qualitative, talk to people, quantitative, look at these people's tenure. And it's all on LinkedIn, man. You just had to mine it a little bit. And I know we're all data scientists and data folks who want big data sets, but sometimes you just got to look at 30 people's LinkedIn profiles at a company, put it in your own Excel sheet and just see what it is. No Spark, no Hadoop here, just got to put it in Excel and calculate yourself and see what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's a really important point is that, well, people put so much effort into their projects, right? They put so much effort into interview prep,
Yeah.
and they forget that they eventually have to do a job afterwards.
Yep.
And it's like all about getting the job, but I don't think people do enough homework into if they'd really like the job, right? You're like, okay, go ahead.
No, I've seen the same thing. And I think a few things for people to realize, like, guys, I wish I was cool doing all these fun things, but I spend most of my waking hours working just by the nature of I sleep a lot. So when I'm awake, I have to, clock in for some time, right? So it's like, if you're going to spend so much of your waking hours, basically your life that's not asleep, working, let's do some better due diligence, right? And people are like, Nick, you're going to look at 30 LinkedIn profiles? It's like, yo, like you guys spent so much time researching a company. How are you not going to look at every person's profile, see their tenure, write it down, especially if you have 2 offers in hand? That's one thing that I tell people. And then the second interesting thing I tell people is like, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here.
No, it's okay. Well, like the flip side of that, I think we touched on it a little bit, is like during the interview, I really think it's important to like ask qualifying things.
Yeah.
Like, they're interviewing you, but from a psychological perspective, if you're also interviewing them, that, it's like dating, right? If you have standards, there's a higher likelihood that someone else is going to be attracted to you. You're not just getting anything that you could get. And like figuring out how to ask those questions to see if this would be a good fit for you. Like, okay, like, how much do you have unlimited PTO? That's something that I care about. That's something that's meaningful to me. I'll have to think a lot more if that's not something that you offer, or if you don't have like a certain type of plan or like health benefits, or even related to salary or the type of work. It's like, look, I don't want to be touching XYZ system because I think it's antiquated.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to tell me I'm going to be using, again, XYZ like every day on the job, like this isn't a good fit for me.
Yep.
Um, I think that people don't realize that you can be. I mean, they're paying you a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like they want you. They need you just as bad as you need them. Probably even worse. Like you should be qualifying
Yeah.
them as well
I
in
want
major
to
ways.
put one nuance here because I know this is a little controversial. I hear what you're saying. It's a two-way street. I would just let people know, in my own perspective, I try to like back away from that mindset just a little bit until I have the offer. Then it's totally a two-way
That's fair.
street. And
Yeah.
and here's the reason why. Because it's so easy to play to lose, where it's like, I didn't care about the job anyway. Or it's like you start tanking and it's like, but that guy was a little mean. I don't want this job anyway, So I always try to say that you are interviewing them. It's a two-way street, but like in the beginning stages, focus on getting the offer. Because if you start letting yourself be like, but I didn't really want the job anyway, it starts to kind of that affects you in your interviewing, and I'm always
Yeah.
like, if you have the free time and you're actively interviewing, try to focus on getting the offers, and then later worry about, like, once you have the job offer, let's do our due diligence, let's call up people. Let's not do that in the middle. Let's first focus on getting the offer. Now, this is for more junior talent. I can understand how someone in your position, someone more senior, who has a bunch of stuff to do and is not applying willy-nilly, maybe it is more of a two-way street. But definitely for junior talent, like, suck it up, interview as perfectly as you can, then do the research at the tail end where you be a little bit more critical about the role. Because you know what? You know how earlier we said it's all about that passion and enthusiasm, right? It's like if you start getting in your own brain a little bit, like in one interview, like, I don't know if I really liked it. One person was a little weird, and it's hard to be enthusiastic in the rest of your interview process. And maybe you don't have to work with that one weird person, or maybe that one weird thing was just a very minor detail in the grand scheme of things, and they're offering a lot of growth and a lot of salary. Maybe you should have been enthusiastic throughout the whole thing. So that's kind of why I'm always like, I'm always trying to be enthusiastic about the opportunity throughout the interview process, and then only get in that critical two-way mindset once I have the offer in hand.
I like that a lot. That makes a tremendous amount of sense. And again, yeah, I'm speaking probably more for sort of like that senior position, which is very different from the junior position, right?
Yeah.
And to that point, how do you feel about like breadth versus depth related to the job search on that front? I actually, for all people, I generally recommend a little bit more depth, because I think, I'll let you touch on that, and then I'll share
Yeah,
my
man.
thoughts. I don't want to prime you too
I'm a
much.
little biased because my breadth has been crazy, right? I've done some marketing, some data science, data engineering, software engineering, written a book, just all these random things. And in my own life, I think breadth's worked really well. I don't want to say that there are two types of people, but I mean, there are definitely some people who are oriented towards breadth, who are just insanely curious, imaginative, who are always tinkering with a bunch of different side projects. For those kind of people, I just want to let them know breadth can work. People tell you to specialize. And I think there's this famous, quote, like, specializations for insects or something like that. I mean, specialization does pay dividends, but I think in this kind of crazy world we live in, that's evolving really fast, there are gains to be held for generalists and people who have a breadth of experience, right? Like, I always tell people with the book, I'm definitely not the world's best data scientist. I'm not the world's best writer. I'm definitely not the world's best career coach. In college, I didn't think I'd be a career coach. Maybe I thought I'd be a data scientist, and I definitely didn't think I'd be a writer, but I'm the weird person who's sort of into all three and was able to make the book. And now the book's been doing well. So I'm always telling people, like, especially earlier in your career, get that breadth. I think later in your career, if you know what you like and you're just like, I love modeling and I don't like exploratory data analysis, or I love, technical, being an evangelist, maybe day-to-day coding isn't for me and I want to more talk about developer tools and data science tools, that might be fine later. So I think it's age/career dependent, but I think that, like, what's been interesting is breadth has been a good strategy. And I think society pushes you towards depth because that's much more of an explainable path. Because no one can explain to me early in my career, like, why would one person want to learn about software and data and writing and like public speaking? Like, what does that get you? Like, what kind of job is that? But, with the internet being so big and random niches occurring every day, it's it might not make sense immediately, but like breadth can pay dividends, especially as long as the breadth's in things that are all valuable, you know? So as long as you're picking up valuable skills. So I think depth is a very easy case to argue. And I think it's what society pushes you into. And it's really easy to specialize in one skill or one tool set. So I don't have anything against depth. And I think people can earn very good livings through depth and have really good careers. But breadth, man, don't sleep on breadth, because crazy things can happen that you can't plan for. It's hard. How can I advocate for something I can't even plan? But I'm telling you, if I'd seek depth, I would still be a senior software engineer at Facebook doing growth. That's all I could talk about. And sure, I'd know a lot about it, but I would have no book. I wouldn't be able to be a career coach. I wouldn't have any of that. And that's what gives me so much value, today.
Yeah. I love that. I think that for general life advice, you're spot on. Like, how would you know what you like if you don't try a lot of things?
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's how I experience food. That's how I mean, obviously career wise, I've done something very similar on that front as well.
Yeah.
Like, I would have never known I enjoyed teaching or making videos if I didn't try it and go out of my way. I think I'm thinking more in terms of the specific job search, rather than sending out resumes to every company under the sun. I find that if I say, okay, I would likely be interested in working in these 4 sectors, I'm going to, at least for this role, narrow my search to these 4. Then I can do one project for each 4 sector. That, like, those projects are very localized to the roles, which probably give me a significantly higher percentage chance of like getting interviews, getting jobs, whatever that might be. I generally I don't think you should like narrow and be like, I only want to work in this position and I'm only going to apply to Facebook, because like probabilistically you cannot.
Exactly.
If you don't get it, you're screwed. There's like that trade-off that I'm interested in between saying, hey, like, let's narrow it a little bit, and then like, I'm not like sending out 700 resumes, whatever that might be.
Yeah, no, definitely a big fan of what you said. And you mentioned 4 projects. Let me show you how one project I did with Rapstock can be spun into a bunch of different things, right? So I can show you this way of, like, I had one project that I talked about. I mean, I had won a hackathon, I'd done other projects, but primarily in interviews, they really only asked about this one project. And of course, my internship experiences, but this is the one project, Rapstock, the hip hop stock marketplace. Let me show you how that's spun. With consumer-oriented companies like Uber, Airbnb, and Facebook, I'd interview with their growth team, and I'd write cold emails to their head of growth or head of growth engineering, showing them, hey, look how neatly my project aligns to them. Then when I talked to financial companies, I was like, yo, check out how I made a stock market for rappers. I'm interested in fintech and finance, and look at this ledger I made, blah, blah, blah. And I'd send that to Stripe and Venmo and a few other companies like that, Plaid. And then I'd take that same project, Rapstock, and be like, look how I'm pricing things using alternative data from Spotify. I want to work at your alternative data company or your consumer credit company or your like insurance tech company that's pricing insurance premiums through alternative data, because that's the same kind of thing I'm really interested in. So I think even just one project spun different ways can work really well. But notice, these are still niche things, right? I'm still not spraying and praying to random companies. Like, I don't have anything random to tell CVS Health based on my Rapstock project, right? But I do have something to say all consumer companies, Snapchat, Airbnb, Uber, they all have growth teams. They all could have used someone like me to help them out. So I think there's this magic of, don't spray and pray, but also, hey, don't knock that one project could be spun so many different ways. And in each email, the person's like, whoa, this person's born for this role. Like, they know some data, they know some engineering, they built this really cool project. Like, okay, we're going to interview him. So I think there's magic to be done even just in one interview, as long as it's very compelling.
Well, that's something I really want to highlight in what you just said is, I mean, you kind of beat around it, but the story that you're telling is so important. Right. When I look at someone's resume, what you're seeing is a story of their career history.
Yeah.
And the next step on their resume that is not there should be at your company. Right. If they've built their resume correctly, or they've told their project story correctly, or they've, given their 2 minutes about themselves story. If you're not thinking that, hey, like the next logical step is for them to be working at my company, like that person is doing something wrong.
Exactly. And it's so funny to see people botch, tell me about yourself. And actually, we have a whole chapter in the book, Ace the Data Science Interview, on behavioral interviews. And I give people this 3-step formula for how to ace that tell me about yourself question. But the first part of the chapter is, hey, these interviews, behavioral interviews, are not fluffy bullshit. Like there's a real art to doing well. And you'd be surprised at how many people tell that kind of story poorly. Because every interview asks, tell me about yourself. And that story, the 3-part formula we give in the book, is tell me about your past, tell me about your current, and then talk about the future, and selectively pick things from your past and current that map really neatly to a future, where that future is exactly the job and the type of company you're being offered today. So you want to make it look inevitable when you tell that story, such that, wow, it's lined up neatly for what we have today. So I just want to give that little plug, because so many people mess it up. And what you said about like, hey, you want to talk about how this is perfect for the job, super clutch advice for answering these behavioral interview questions. And almost everyone that gets asked, tell me about yourself. So
Yeah. Well, I think what a lot of people don't realize about the behavioral interview also is like they're assessing skills, right? It's not just like, oh, do I like this person?
yeah,
It's like, well, how much has this person like analyzed the company? How much do they know about our business? How much homework have they done? How much research
yeah,
have they done? I mean, that is the first thing that I always ask is like, hey, what's our
yep,
company do? Like, can you explain it to me? I mean, like, it's kind of a
yeah,
jerk move, but it's also
yeah,
like, if you're working at a company, you should know what they do, right? Like,
right.
how do you explain it to me? Like, what are our lines of business? Um, and that is something, I guess it's behavioral,
Yeah,
right? I mean, that's not a technical question. I
yeah.
guess in theory it could be, but
No, and it's like, well, one technical skill it might be testing is communication. You're a data scientist. How are you going to communicate your findings? How are you going to advocate for this business recommendation if you can't even tell me about yourself neatly? If you can't even tell me the story about you, how do I expect you to tell me this, tell the CEO the story behind the data and like put that into a neat presentation and support this narrative that drives, create a narrative out of the data that supports this decision that should be done. If you can't tell me about yourself or answer something like, hey, what does this company do? How are you going to do all these things? Right. So people are really quick to discount like, I'll just wing it. It's just about myself, or, hey, what's there to improve in my communication? But hey, it really is there's some real meat behind these questions and real value of becoming a better communicator and practicing these things. So you can show interviewers like, yo, I've got the communication skills, the charisma, the people skills, the passion to do this job well. Because honestly, that's what makes a lot of this
yeah.
success as well. It's not just your modeling ability or your ability to do pandas, there's a lot more there.
That's something I think would be funny is if a behavioral interview, maybe half of it was over Slack or over Teams or something like that, because people don't realize most of our communication in the workforce is written.
Yeah.
Right. And how effectively you can communicate via just like messages or emails, I think is really, really important and overlooked. Um,
Definitely.
Obviously, person to person communication is great, but like the written medium, I put a lot of stock in if people write a blog, like
Yep.
I look at that. I mean, that is 100%.
Yeah. Storytelling is everything. And that's how we communicate. That's how we make big decisions. And I think what's interesting is what you're alluding to this written interview. If you're interviewing for an investment associate at a VC firm, one of the quick things they say is, hey, write a 1-page memo for why we should invest in any company, and you get to pick your company, but you have to convey like why. And it comes in a 1-page memo. And actually, something interesting at Safegraph was I was giving a written interview. And why we do that is to make it even, because, maybe some people just aren't great communicators. And let's talk about, maybe a software engineer doesn't have to communicate so well compared to a data scientist who's such a cross-functional role. So yeah, we would do that to even the playing field and just be like, yo, can this person write neatly enough? Nothing crazy, but just like, 3-4 sentence answers to like 5 questions, to just level the playing field of like, hey, maybe you're just more well articulate, you can articulate better in writing. But it's such a crucial move. And my teachers would always tell me like, when you're in leadership or management, you'll be writing a ton. Like maybe this math stuff won't be so important. I'm like, nah, F you guys. Like I'm going to be writing code till I die. I had no intention of writing a book. And here I am nowadays, day to day writing way more in English for the book and blog posts and content marketing rather than writing code. So funny how
It's
it
funny
goes.
how that works out. Just a reminder, everyone, that we'll be giving away five of Ace the Data Science interview books. So just be sure to be tuned in to how we're going to deliver that. That'll be in the description and in the pinned comment. around how those will be administered. Uh, before we kind of move on, I want to touch on the book just a little bit
Yeah.
more. Um, and maybe what's not in the book, right? Like, what have you learned since writing the book that you think could make an addendum or a second book that maybe surprised you?
Okay, so I'm gonna let the audience in a secret. So we self-publish the book, which means we can update the book continuously, and nobody knows this. So basically, we've updated the book like 17 times since it's come out in 3 months, and we will continue to keep updating it. So yes, the page count literally keeps increasing. So literally, and we tried to do this like the Silicon Valley mindset of quick iteration. Like, yes, the book, like anytime I learn something, we're putting it in the book. So we're always catching mistakes and adding new value. So a little bit of a cheat to say, hey, we haven't learned anything. It's all in the book. But I think one interesting thing just through talking to people, I mean, it's going to be hard to distill this into the book. Like it's not going to make it in, is mindset, how important mindset is. And I don't want to talk about this woo-woo stuff like, oh, Nick, what are you talking about mindset, you know? But like what's been really interesting in coaching different people, helping them out with interviews, is just like how some people just think, hey, I can't do it. So they don't even try. And how other people are like, yo, I'm going to make it work. And I'm going to listen to you, Nick. And Nick, you say to do 201 problems in your book. I'm going to do them. Okay, maybe I don't know all of them, but I'm going to do 100. You're still far beyond the person who's like, yeah, I got the book and I didn't really look at it because I ran late and this and that. And you know what, I just kind of gave up and, you know, it was a little hard and whatever. So I've been really surprised by how important mindset is, and like how, you know, they talk about like, think about like a graph, like a line, there's like a y-intercept and there's slope. And people say like, judge people on slope, not on y-intercept. Don't judge people on where they start, judge them on how fast they're growing. And day after day, I'm more impressed by like, wow, there's some people who just don't have great skills, but they grow really fast because they're into it. And it's a mindset thing. It's not because they're like 50 IQ points higher. It's just like they actually give a shit. And just giving a damn is like actually something that I've just been very surprised to see. Like, wow, it correlates really well with who actually does well or not. It's not about your baseline knowledge you're coming into this process with. It's been mindset. Like, when does one person give up and when does another one? And I don't know how to teach that. I don't know how to say in the book, like, guys, trust me, if you can work through these problems, not give up, actually do the cold emails, not just read about them, be like, this is really creative, I'll send 2, but like actually send 30, send 50 cold emails. I want to put people in that mindset of like, yo, it's possible, because yeah, we've seen it happen. So that's one thing that's not in the book that I just don't know how to communicate, which is why these kind of videos work so well. Because like maybe me telling it to you, or maybe Ken, you chime in. Have you seen that too? I mean, us telling it to you right now maybe does better than be like, oh yeah, just read the book and it'll all work out.
Well, I think that that's definitely something you can figure into the book. I mean, something
Yeah.
that is related to that is having is like how you quantify this process, right?
Yeah.
From some data from, I think it was Sharpest Minds, they're saying that around like 2 to 3% of people 2 to 3% of applications get even an interview, right?
Right.
If you're going through a job board, right? If I'm going through a job board and I'm getting 6.5% of like a callback rate, right? I might think that that's terrible.
Right.
But if I'm basing it off of like a line in the sand, that baseline, that's actually really good. It's like double
Yeah.
what the average is.
Right.
And people get really discouraged when they don't actually have a reason to be. And I think that
Yeah.
that's like a psychological trick, is that we're basing a lot of our judgments off of like flawed metrics or the
Right.
lack of metrics. And using data, we can actually create a better mindset or a more realistic view of the world. I mean,
Right.
in some sense, right? Like, this process is a numbers game. Like,
Yeah.
if you do the right things and you apply to enough jobs and you don't stop, like, I see it as being almost impossible for you not to land a job, right?
Right.
Like the only way you don't land a data science job, unless you just like are doing literally the worst work ever constantly and like can't figure out how to improve, is
Right.
to stop interviewing or stop
Right.
applying, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, to me, I think that's like a hopeful thing. It might take you longer than other people or whatever
I
it is,
want to put
but
a third thing: interviewing, applying, and then also reflecting on what you messed up, because if
Yeah.
people are like, yo, you just don't know these skills, or it's like your SQL is trash, let's go improve that. But as long as you keep doing it, hey, 6 months, a year, like people are able to break into this field because it's not rocket science, it's just SQL. And SQL can be hard. Like, I don't want to knock it. I know a lot of people are learning SQL, but I'm just trying to say, like, hey, SQL was designed to be kind of accessible to business stakeholders and like a wide variety of people. I don't know if you know that. Like, I think they took truck drivers and said, hey, can we teach the average truck driver SQL in a week? They wanted a standard where it's like, oh, so that's why they called from and select, because that's exactly what it means, So I don't know. I feel like this feel, yeah. So that's why there's not anything too crazy in SQL naming wise. Where means where, right? Or an and, like there's nothing crazier than that, right? And that's like the foundations of a lot of what data science and data analysts do. So I don't know. Yeah, I just definitely think that people shouldn't give up and be demoralized too early, and that's where the mindset comes in. Is like people who believe in this felt in themselves and like don't give up early, keep sending cold emails, keep building projects and iterating, like they're able to achieve crazy things. And that's where that slope comes in of like, they just keep improving versus other people just give up.
So that last point you made about feedback, that's something honestly I've always struggled with. How do you ask for feedback after an interview and actually get it? So a lot of the time I've asked feedback, I've sent an email and it's just crickets.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, companies don't give feedback because of like lawsuit reasons, which honestly I think is the stupidest thing. Because you know how coffee has to say like caution hot because someone spilled coffee at McDonald's and then they got sued for it, So, but let's be honest, there's enough cafes now that serve coffee that doesn't say caution hot, right? So same way, and I'm sure someone somewhere sued some company because they got feedback they didn't like. But I think most companies should be giving feedback, especially for those take-home challenges. It's brutal to like have someone spend 6 hours in a project and then just like ghost them. That's terrible. So I don't want people to see that. Like companies to do that. So any hiring managers, please do not do that. But speaking back to that point of how do you get feedback? I don't know. I mean, unless companies change, I think one thing is, did you know yourself often where you messed up? Like, I feel like people kind of know. So I think that's one thing that people kind of know where they mess up. Two is maybe you didn't do anything wrong and they're just stronger candidates. Like that's something you can't account for. And it's a mindset change of like, hey, sometimes I will go head to head with someone who just has a few years more experience and I did fine, but they did better, or they did just as fine, but they're more conservative pick because they had more years of experience. Honestly, there's not much you can do. So feedback wise, I feel like feedback has not been a bottleneck for most people. Usually, you work through these 201 problems. They're hard enough where people know, like, no one's solving all the problems, then bombing interviews. Usually this book, you can only work through 40 or 50 of them. And you're like, yo, I can only get through so many of them before they start getting really hard, So I think it might be too much of a cop out to be like, yo, I didn't know where I went wrong. I think it's easy to figure out your own bounds. And I think you just got to build some taste, right? So how do you build taste? Like, how do you get more critical on yourself? It's to see what is good. For take-home challenges, go look at Kaggle and look at what other people's notebooks did and see how they explored data and what they took into account. Or in SQL, see how other people solved harder SQL questions than you can do currently. For ML, see how people explain like M5 on Reddit. People are always explaining concepts, like see how other people explained PCA or SVM intuitively, and try to write it down yourself. Like, look, SVM, what a PCA is, but could you write about it neatly in like 3 or 4 sentences and explain it to someone who might not know what it is? Like that's hard. Even I would struggle to write about it neatly in like 4 or 5 sentences, talk about dimensionality reduction, for example, So I think like just build good taste, see what else is out there, because there's so many talented people putting up their work for free on GitHub and Kaggle and where else. So you can build that own taste. And that's really how you level up. I don't like that mindset of like, I would be perfect. And if only someone could grade me and like give me real feedback, I think it's like a lot more inside that you can do. Like a lot more initiative you can show yourself to do that. Yeah.
awesome. I really like that. So those are all my questions. What do you have going on? Feel free to plug your stuff, talk about
Yeah, man.
anything that is coming up in the pipeline.
Yeah, guys, I'm excited. I mean, just mostly promoting the book and iterating on it, improving things. As I mentioned, we're just constantly iterating. So if you guys have read the book and have feedback, come reach out to me on LinkedIn. And yeah, just excited to get a YouTube channel going at some point. Sooner than later, you might see me hitting some dance moves on TikTok, do a little bit of a, shout out some data science concepts and then hit the Dougie, I don't know how these, Gen Zs do, but I'm gonna figure it out. So that's what's exciting. But yeah, guys, connect with me on LinkedIn, Nick Singh, the book, Ace of the Data Science Interview, check it out on Amazon. If you've been reading it, let me know how it's going, write a review. But yeah, those are all the plugs. But yeah, just
Awesome.
been really excited to do this with you, Ken. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on. Just remember that Nick should be doing his own research and figuring out how he could improve. So give him feedback, but just remind him of. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, y'all, tell me what
I'm
you
just
guys were
fucking around.
vibing with on the comments down below on YouTube, or tell me what kind of didn't vibe, because I'm always hungry to improve. So